bought this brand new 2019 GT3RS and it is completely destroyed. In the last video, we took it off the trailer, dropped the engine, and inspected the chassis damage, and I'm pretty sure it's unsavable. Which is why I just purchased this 991.2 Guards Red 911 GT3 to hopefully save this whole entire project. Here we are. Here's my backup plan. I might look crazy for this, and I probably am a little bit crazy, and I'm okay with that. So I'm happy to introduce to you guys our 991.2 Porsche GT3. That's right, there's no RS at the end of this title because this is a different car. And before you start scratching your head in confusion, let me explain. So right here is our 991.2 GT3RS, which in the last video, you guys saw us drop the engine and trans out of this car and inspect the rest of the chassis. Now, as we stripped the whole entire car and started looking underneath it, we saw some damage that essentially rode off the entire car. And if the front end wasn't bad enough, the whole entire rear end section is cracked all the way to the strut, and I can see the inside of the cabin from here. So this was my backup plan. Now this Porsche GT3 is a beautiful spec in Guards Red, one of my absolute favorites. But there's something particular about this GT3 that made this very interesting. It's pretty clear that this one's been in some sort of minor front end accident. That's not that bad. But where this car gets very interesting, now I still haven't figured a way to open up the trunk hatch yet, but let's get underneath the car and show you what's behind that door. And it's nothing. And on the inside of this car, we have a manual gearbox that's missing a gearbox, and we have missing seats. Now, what is something that our GT3RS has? Well, it has every piece that we're missing for the Guards Red GT3. So this is where the risk factor really weighs in here, because we have a GT3RS engine and PDK transmission that I'm pretty sure should be able to fit inside of this GT3. But there are some differences between a GT3 and a GT3RS. So let's go over those differences. I'm gonna call my friend Jamie, and he works at Dundon Motorsport. If you guys haven't watched the channel for a while, we've actually installed quite a few Dundon Motorsport exhaust systems on our Porsches, and they make the best systems, and they specialize in Porsche. He will know everything that we need to know about these two cars. So let's give him a call and start asking some questions. It should be going through right now. Oh, there it goes. Gotcha. Sweet. I know there are some differences with the two cars. Is a .2 RS and a .2 GT3, do they share the same engine?
They do. So they're both 4 liters. They both have the same valve train. The biggest difference between them is the engine tuning. It's just the ECU.
So in theory, as long as we have the ECU and the computer components to manage the engine, in theory it should work. Now, what I saw on my .2 RS that I don't know if my .1 RS has is, does it have active tow in the rear?
Yes. So you're putting a .2 engine in a .1
No,
RS.
we're putting a .2 RS engine and a .2 GT3.
Perfect. Okay, no problem. So that should be fine. You're gonna want to run the .2 GT3 ECU. If all you do is plop the engine in and connect it to the .2 GT3, the .2 GT3 won't know that engine came from an RS. It has no way to tell.
Right.
And all the mechanicals are the same, so it will start and run and be perfect.
Right, so what are the core fundamental differences of a .2 GT3 and a .2 GT3 RS? Is it just aero, or are there other components that differ to them?
Pretty much. Aero, size of the tires, I think spring rates are different.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it, really.
Oh, okay.
I mean, as far as, and the ECU tune. So what we can do is once you get it all done, then we can tune the ECU in your .2 GT3 to get you that RS power back.
All right, well, thank you, Jamie. I wouldn't have made the decision without your input, so thank you.
Hopefully this goes well.
Hopefully it goes well while you're on the line. No, I'm just kidding. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
Ooh, okay, that's crazy. I learned a lot there, and I always knew there were some real differences, but the .2 GT3 to .2 GT3 RS The main differences are strictly in the aero. So we're kind of going to be doing a little bit of heresy. I know the Porsche Club of America is going to have a field day because we're kind of doing something a little bit weird. We're taking their flagship car and we're gonna be putting it in something that's actually considered a little bit less. But here's the kicker. And this is where it gets really crazy in the Porsche world. So the Porsche that I have, my ultraviolet purple, is a 991.1 GT3 RS. Now the GT3RS.1 RS engine is actually different from the engine that we pulled out of the .2. This engine is actually quite a bit more valuable. It makes a little bit more torque, and it's supposed to be a better engine. Now, the 991.1 GT3 doesn't have the 4.0 that I have in my RS. It has a 3.8. So when they went to the .2s, it got an upgraded engine, which is what makes the RS.2 so much more valuable. They're an extra $60,000 just because you get this engine, and of course you get some facelift and some PCM, but the 991.2 GT3 is the same value as my 991.1 GT3 RS. Now I know I'm throwing a bunch of Porsche lingo at you. There's a .1 and a .2. The .2 is the updated, more last gen version of this. So we're gonna be taking all the .2 components and we're gonna be stuffing it into a .2 GT3. Now, here's where it gets exciting. I don't know if this is gonna work. I truly don't. And that's what makes this build so fun, is we have the pleasure and we get to come here every day and do our best to try to do something that I don't think, to my knowledge, has ever been done before. Now, they are very similar in the fact that they share the same drivetrain and such, but we're gonna be taking the risk of taking everything in that car and trying to stuff it in this car. And while you guys are here with me, let's go over this car a little bit, because this car was crashed, and that's what made this so perfect. Now, this car actually came from a friend of mine called Tommy F. Yao. He didn't crash the car, but he bought it and stole some parts off it. So, if you take a look around the car, we're missing all 4 calipers, and what makes this different than the RS is the RS was actually optioned with the PCCB, which is the carbon ceramic brakes. Those are very expensive. Now this has the steel brake option. Now you can upgrade this to the carbon ceramics from factory, but this car has steelies on it. I have carbon ceramics on my ultraviolet purple RS, and as much as I love them, I actually really want steel options because we could fit a different size wheel, actually a lot smaller of a wheel because the actual caliper and rotor is a little bit smaller. So I'm happy that it has the steely brakes. If you come to the inside of the car, you'll notice that we're missing a very expensive item, and that is the seats. But if you remember, we still have the seats and they're in perfect condition from the RS. So we're gonna be taking the seats and sticking it in here. Only other thing that we're missing from the inside of this is our airbag, but this is a leather wheel, and we definitely will wanna upgrade to an Alcantara wheel, so I think we can use the RS steering wheel in that. And like I tried to show you earlier, we haven't figured out how to open the trunk hatch yet. So there's no engine and trans, but because this car doesn't have electronics and I've already hooked up a battery to it and I can't get the rest of the car to key on, I don't know why yet, but I can't open that up. We're gonna be making a Frankenstein GT3 with a GT3 RS sole underneath it. In theory, they're the same car, but we're gonna be taking the guts and soul of that and putting it in here. And then this car was in some sort of a minor front end wreck, which honestly isn't too bad. We should be able to take the whole front end off, which is gonna be a mission in itself, but it would be too easy if we just bought a normal GT3 or another RS that did need a little bit of work. So we're also gonna be, as we're doing the transplant of this car and swapping out the harnesses, the ECU, the interior, all the modules and engine components, we're gonna be doing some front end surgery to the front of this GT3. Lots to do, lots to tackle. While we are waiting on parts for this, because I already ordered a complete front half tub for this car, because they're actually pretty accessible, because believe it or not, and again, if you guys aren't familiar with Porsches, you're gonna be very familiar by the end of all this series, because you can use a rear wheel drive Carrera front end tub, and it doesn't need to be GT3 specific. They actually share from the base models the same tub, as long as it's not the Turbo S all-wheel drive option. And this hood is not carbon because it's not an RS, it's just an aluminum hood, and you can actually use a Carrera 911 hood, and it's the same hood on the GT3. Same goes for these fenders. I'm pretty sure that they are actually just Carrera fenders, not RS specific, which is awesome. If you come to the rear end of the car, there is just a little bit of damage. We need to get a new rear bumper because this one saw a little bit of a wall. And this car is completely covered in PPF, which is nice. And the PPF looks like it honestly saved some of this paint, but there's so many scratches and dings throughout this bumper. We're just gonna be better off ordering a brand new one. And then we'll get a taillight and then a little bit of PDR here to fix a slight little dent in this rear quarter. And I think this whole entire trunk lid and wing is completely savable as it just has some minor scratches. Lots and lots to fix on this car. Don't quite know how we're gonna do it yet, but in theory it should work, and we have the friends and manpower and dedication to pull it off, to hopefully be the first people to ever do this swap. But all you need to know is we're gonna try to put that into that. And normally we do auto to manual swaps. And in this video, we're gonna be doing manual to auto because believe it or not, the PDK transmission, that's the automatic trans in these cars, is so dang good. I have no problem switching from a manual to auto because it's just that good. So let's go back to the interior of this car. Let's help out Cal because we still have a lot of stripping to do. And when I say stripping, we're not just taking seats and trim out. We need to take every single component of this car out. And when I say everything, I literally mean everything. Our goal is going to be to get this chassis down to a bare shell. That means every piece of hardware, every bit of the wiring harness, every piece of plastic will come off of this car because if we don't use it for the red car, we plan to sell it to try to get as much money back as possible. One thing that I want to point out that I just noticed on this Porsche that I have not seen on other cars, especially supercars that we've worked on, all of these trim pieces and interior pieces have a gasket that goes in between them. And the reason why that's cool and why that's important is because, in my opinion, Porsche has some of the nicest build quality out of any cars. I think a lot of people would agree with that, just when it comes to rattling and squeaking and just the finishing touches. Now on the inside of this panel that I'm starting to remove the dash, I removed it from this inside piece. I took it apart, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just cracked it. And then I noticed that's a gasket. It's a mini rubber gasket. And then Calv said, as he's been doing this whole entire car, every piece on the interior is also lined in this gasket.
Like when you buy supercars and they got the 6-figure tag and you're like, what am I paying for? At least you know with Porsche, you press on things, it doesn't squeak, they got you. Literally that's so many more steps in manufacturing.
It's sick. That's super cool.
Top 10 hardest center consoles to remove. It's just very convoluted. I watched a tutorial from this guy, same guy TJ's watching the same tutorial from. Oh, wait. Oh, I should have marked it. Well, sorry about that, Teach.
Oh, the threads.
Yeah.
There's marking threads on that.
Yeah, that's me shifting your gears. I don't know where it was, but I didn't realize it. Took a while. Still not out. Porsche likes to make their thing really cool. Look at this mechanism. So fancy. Hate it. Can't take it apart.
While we're talking about all this Porsche stuff, Hunt & Co actually just released a dedicated GT3RS t-shirt. It's personally one of my faves, so if you're a fan of this car and you want a chance to enter to win our Mark IV Supra giveaway car, head over to thehuntandcompany.com, and every $1 you spend will get you one entry towards winning. I picked out a couple orders with some guys with taste. Dylan Ulrich ordered a GT3RS T in large and in XL. I wonder if this is for a buddy. We have another person with some style. We got William Williams. Is that your real last name? Charlottesville, Virginia. We have another person with style, Wyatt Zelko from Hawaii. We got a 10-year anniversary tee. We have a GT3RS tee, and we have a R34 long sleeve tee. I like your style, Wyatt. Wyatt, William, and Dylan, thank you guys so much. These were packed by yours truly, and these orders are going up by the hundreds every single day. We're going as fast as we can, so I hope you guys win, and good luck. Now it's time for the scariest part of this whole entire video, in my opinion, and that is doing a compression test on this engine. It shouldn't be bad, but we've had a really bad case of luck lately with engines, so let's hope this one works out well. So Dylan made a contraption to check compression, because this doesn't have your typical, this isn't your typical engine. Let's just say that.
Long and short, we have a sealed oil system, new filter, new oil. Our water pump is disconnected, no belt. It's a lot easier for the motor to turn over. No coolant, so it's not gonna put any coolant out. Battery, jumper cables, grounded on the bell housing, supply power to the starter, and then we have a trigger switch over here, alligator clip.
It stopped at 120.
So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna do 5 for each cylinder. We're just gonna take that number and see how close they are to each other. Because what you can do is you can spin it 20 times, and if it takes 20 times for one to get to one whatever, and 5 for another, there's some kind of underlying issue. So we're just gonna pick 5, which is an easy number, and then we'll do each cylinder. And then we'll see from there how it goes.
Okay.
Plug her in.
Ready? Same. For those of you who do not know what a compression test is, it works by spinning the engine through cycles with the compression tester in the place of the spark plug in the cylinder. As the engine builds pressure, the gauge will move and hold the highest point read on the gauge. After taking measurements of all 6 cylinders, we should see a healthy range with no more than 10% variance through all of the cylinders. If we can achieve this grouping of numbers, we can then determine that this engine is healthy. Now, to get a more accurate reading, you can do a compression test when the engine is warm. But of course, our engine is out of the car, so we know that it is cold. But doing a compression test with a cold engine will give you the worst case scenario because the metal has not yet expanded. So this can kind of give us a little bit more of a true reading of our compression. So honestly, it works out a little bit better for us.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Feels good.
So our initial test had a newer battery, and we were getting a stronger result sooner. After repeating all 6 again, we are reaching consistent 105 after 5 turnovers, and after about 8 to 9, we reached that 120. So that's good. So far, compression is solid. That is good. That is what we thought would happen, but just wanted to double check.
Now that you know, putting it back in feels a lot better than being like, shit, I hope it works when we spend a week and a half doing all this.
Now with red car on the lift, let's look underneath it, which we haven't seen what's underneath this car yet. Should be pretty sturdy, and everything should obviously be there. I'm not worried about that. But I'm curious to see how much was left over, because remember on the green one, there was that big dent under the floorboard, and all of our coolant pipes were damaged. So hopefully with this one, we still have those, and we don't need to go searching and buying more parts, and everything's covered, which is a good sign, because if it's covered, it means they never took it off. And, oh, awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit back here.
Yes, the motor mounts are here. We have a subframe, which our subframe is destroyed. All of the arms are destroyed, which we have all of that. And look at that, it has the active toe. That's epic.
And everything looks great.
That's epic. Now we just need to figure out how to open this darn trunk up. Oh man, look at that. We got the AC lines, coolant lines, and even those plugs we had to replace. We could have actually just salvaged them from here, but oh well. We'll get them new. Oh man, that is exciting.
Oh, that panel's carbon too. Sick.
Yeah.
And the subframe looks identical.
Yeah, we'll do some research to double check that the subframes are compatible, but again, same engine, I'm sure it's fine.
Oh, this is nice. I like this. It's sheared right here. Look at this. But I'm stoked because look, the subframe mount point is the same. So I just pour right there. So far, so good.
It's looking up, dude. It's looking up.
Yeah,
Hell
it stops
yeah.
right at this. All this line is perfectly in line with the factory under panel.
That's perfect. That's
Me,
great.
yeah.
The engine I was nervous about, and I was also nervous about what was going to be included in this. It's good. It's really good. I think this is gonna work.
Oh, there you go. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I see it.
I like the deck lid and the wing of the GT3 more than the RS. I like all the aero on the front fenders and all that stuff and the side scoops, sure. I love that rear hatch. Interior process is very timely. I guess you don't really think, but removing everything down to the bare shell takes time. It takes a lot of time. And we're trying our best to not break anything.
I think TJ, when TJ says he's trying his best, he's about like, he gives it a tug and it's like, oh, it's not working. Time to big toe. You know what I'm saying?
I do my best. I'm definitely not the most delicate person, but
I'm over here. I'm over here trying to set up a GoPro. Like, oh, I'm not gonna clip it to the steering wheel. TJ sees it on the floor and he goes like this. Ooh, fine. Okay.
Didn't you break the interior on the NSX?
Oof. There's these plugs right here are very Calvin worthy.
Yeah, yeah. I can breathe.
Oh, it feels good to have that out. Look at how much is left, though.
Wow. Is this solid? Like, damn.
Crash support.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the red car, and I'm gonna start removing everything from it so we can begin the process of swapping the harnesses and everything from the green car over to this car. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you boys in the next episode. Peace out, and keep moving forward.